today's episode, we're talking about the past does not predict our future. And we will be discussing this focus on our attention on cultivating awareness. And forgive me if I'm looking down quite a bit today because I wrote out a really specific topic that I want us to really tackle and to appreciate, because it's something that we all go through. And in lieu of Suicide Prevention Month, Suicide Awareness Month, as well as mental health, which is not just a monthly thing, it's an ongoing thing. It's an ongoing circumstance that we want to address and not forget about just because it was the topic of the month. So it's really something to keep in mind. And as we come into focusing our attention on cultivating this awareness on mental and emotional well-being through the study of how this is going to get a little bit more scientific. So for those of you in my teacher training, this is something you might want to pay attention to, because this is where our neurons that fire together wire together. And if you're not familiar with Dr. Joe Dispenza, I'm going to highly encourage you to check him out, to watch his YouTube videos, because his teachings transformed my entire life during a season of a really dark time. And it was a huge shift. But something that one of my coaches told me was that during these shifts in transitions in our lives, where we're uncomfortable and we're getting out of those comfort zones, is exactly where the growth happens. It's exactly where the growth happens. If you feel that way, feel free to comment below, share any of those experiences as well that have transformed you. Blessed morning, y'all. And so, Let's move on now. So through the study of how these neurons that are located in our brains, they fire together and wire together, it's also exemplified based on the traditions that we've had in the past. And we have to think about our upbringing, right? We think about these paradigms, right? These paradigms that we've been brought up with, these paradigms that we've been taught, instilled since we were young. Some of us have come up in very Hispanic families that have, if you're Hispanic and you know what I'm talking about, give a thumbs up. Italian, same thing. You come up with extremely very old-fashioned way of being brought up, okay? And then we have paradigms from our belief systems. We have paradigms from what we eat. And so these are things that we need to start awakening and appreciating, that there are other people out there that share different and or similar and or shifted paradigms. And with paradigms comes paradigm blindness. So when we think about this, paradigm is such a powerful word. And so I want you to think about your belief system, your traditions, what it is that you are used to. This also can be cycles and the same patterns that we are investing ourselves in relationships, in friendships, in being in relationships that we know are not healthy for us, but yet for some reason we remain there. And we have to ask ourselves, why is that? Why is that? Okay. And we want to culture this around this community because we've instilled this so deeply into our programming since we were young, since we were little. And we grow up this way. So when we go to another country and we see them doing something different, we're completely shocked. It's like a complete culture shock, right? You have no idea that this is the life that they live because this is how they were brought up. And it becomes very foreign to us, and we have to adapt and we have to adjust. We have to refine. And so we need to be able to take that into consideration as we ourselves continue to evolve. And so we're going through these stories that we've had built within ourselves that we're trying to now manipulate and mold so that they can become a little bit more comfortable. And in doing so, it's actually causing more harm because we're going against the natural flow of our progression. Dr. Joe Dispenza speaks about how our conditioned past creates a predictable future, okay? Our conditioned past creates the predictable future. So if we're stuck in the past and the same cycles, and in yoga we call this samskaras, the same cycle. And samskaras can be healthy, they can be really progressive, or the samskaras can really hold you back. You can continue to do the same thing. Like Einstein said, you can do the same thing over and over again, expecting the same result, and it creates insanity. All right. You'll never get to where you're going to go if you're not going to make a difference or make a change. And that's where we come back to the same neurons that fire together, wire together, right? So if you're continuously doing the same thing and you're getting the same result, you're getting the same response, then there's no progression. But yet at some point, and those neurons are going to continue to get stronger and stronger in their connection. Now, when we take the time to actually switch that connection, right? It's like, okay, I'm going to go down this aisle in the grocery store. I know I'm going to get this every single time I go there. But if you're going down the bread aisle, don't expect to find any pineapples down the bread aisle unless you go to the produce section where you can find the pineapples. So you have to make the shift and go a different way to find something new, okay? So the same way, like that, our brains, our neurons that fire together will rewire. So when you are changing through transcendental meditation, through your yoga practice, to culturing these new mindsets, growth mindsets, I like to call them, those neurons that are in your brain are going to start to rewire and reprogram slowly but surely. Nothing happens overnight, y'all. Nothing happens overnight. We digress. We fall back. It's just like someone that going to the gym every single day, but you know what? I don't feel good today. I don't want to go to the gym today. So they don't go to the gym. And then the next day they don't go to the gym. And the next day they don't go to the gym. And so then all of a sudden they stop going to the gym. And so the physiology that was used to this certain routine now is transcended to a different routine. And now those neurons that are firing together are going to rewire together. And so we need to maintain that consistency when we are committing ourselves to making these subtle and supple changes. The brain is quite powerful, and it is able to actually reprogram itself so that you can create something what is known as ojas. And it comes from food, and it also comes from, it's a final aharas. It's the final byproduct that invites this infusion of vibrance and light into the entire body. And through that same ojas, through that vibrancy, also comes that mindset shift. And also the cerebral fluid in the mind flows through the whole body as soon as you start to make those shifts, just with one simple thought. Today, I am going to have hot tea instead of coffee. Today, I am going to go for a walk outside instead of sleep in. So making those very, very simple shifts, tiny shifts, make a giant difference. And that is the importance of making those simple shifts of compassion within yourself when we start to rewire and reprogram our brains. You know, this holds great value because when we're young, we're exposed to whatever is in that space at the time. We are exposed to whatever our mom and our dad is teaching us at the time, or if we're raised by our grandparents, aunts, uncles, sisters, brothers, community, we're exposed to that environment. The environment that's around us is going to make a huge impact on who we will evolve into if we allow it to affect us in a certain way. And I say this from the standpoint of trauma. When we are in a relationship that is unhealthy, we become accustomed to that. If we're in an abusive relationship, I speak from my own experience. When we are in an abusive relationship, and it's a power and control wheel, and you are just taking it, and you keep taking it, and you keep taking it, and your kindness and your compassion and your love gets misconstrued as becoming a doormat, and that gets taken advantage of, you begin to start thinking in your brain that this is normal, that this is what a relationship is supposed to be like. And then those samskaras continue, and your brain starts to wire, and those neurons start to fire together, and they maintain that same type of connection. So each time you experience that, it becomes more and more natural. So by the time you actually realize and recognize that this is not healthy, that this is not normal, that is when it sometimes is too late and it becomes a part of you. Then every relationship that you're in is going to be the same, and it's going to get worse, and it's going to be the same until it clicks, until it's that one straw that breaks the camel's back. And you recognize that, wait a minute, I need to value my worth. I am not a doormat. I need to value my worth. And that is part of our mental health. It's part of supporting ourselves mentally, physically, and emotionally. Because then we start to recognize, well, my mom stayed with my dad for so long, no matter what. But no matter what, was because she was suppressing her inner emotions so that she can be the best wife or the best partner for that person. When we start to recognize that we are living our own dharmas, and that we're not living the karmas of others, and we're not, whatever somebody else is putting on us is not ours. It's not our fault. It's not, projection is not our fault, okay? We have to understand that we ourselves, exactly, a season for new agreements and cosmic shifts, exactly. When we recognize these changes, these transformations within ourselves, that's when we step into our truth. That is when we step into that rewiring, that I'm going towards the pineapples instead of the bread today. You are rewiring and reprogramming your brain to adjust to a new capacity that is going to help you grow. And this is part of that season of growth. This is part of that season of change. And it's not easy. Sometimes stepping away from a relationship that you invested so much of yourself into is not easy. But at the same time, from great ruin comes great strength. And you will recognize that strength within yourself when you have courage, when you face your fear, when you start to rewire those programs, and you start to recognize that your dharma, your purpose, is to now share what you've gone through to inspire others, because you overcame it, because you were able to find the transformation, to find the new progression and the new paradigm, that you're able to break the old ones and take the blinders off. Because sometimes we're just trying to see through blinders. How hard is it to see through the cracks of my fingers when I'm trying to look at you right now? I can see a little bit, but when I take this off, I see clearly. And that's what's most important. It's removing the blinders to see clearly in the ocean of consciousness. At times it feels like we've been here before. You know, I'm a big fan of the band 9 Inch Nails, and their latest album was It Feels Like I've Been Here Before, and it couldn't have been more true. Sometimes we find ourselves in spaces that we've been before. We've been here before. Good morning, Illy. We've been here before. And we've been able to recognize that pattern. And that's when you know your neurons have rewired. Because in that space, I feel like I've been here before. You know you've been there before. And in that space, you know now to make the changes that are going to enliven you, empower you, and remove you from the situation that no longer serves you. As a matter of fact, as Illy says, you're elevating in ways you didn't know you had to. All right? You're elevating in ways you didn't know you had to.